All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the live stream today. Really quick, I see that Ben, you are a moderator here in the chat. Are you able to hear my audio okay? Let me know. Should be pretty good. Looks like the audio is picking up just nicely. So you might notice that my voice is a little bit different than Ty. Ty is out on some PTO right now, so I am stepping in. My name is Brady. I work right alongside Ty over here at the Ledger Support office. So yeah, I'll be subbing in to do some of the, or to do this live onboarding today. So super stoked for that. Quick agenda, we're gonna go through a complete device unboxing and setup. And while we're setting up the device, we'll chat about some best practices and some things to look out for and to keep in mind when you're using your Ledger device. After we get everything set up, we have our fresh new 24-word recovery phrase. We're going to go ahead and connect it to our native application, Ledger Live. So Ledger Live is going to help you manage all of your assets that you are securing with your 24-word recovery phrase all in one place. And we'll give you some best practices and some tips on how to navigate that application. And we should be able to leave about 10 or 15 minutes towards the end, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how quickly I get through this, for any questions that you all have right here in the chat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. So let's switch over to this shot here. Hi, everybody. So right now, today, we got a Nano S Plus. And what's really cool about this one we're going to do today, we have the Bitcoin Orange Nano S Plus. So that's really exciting. We have a few different colors, including this color, a clear color, and a purple color in this device. Or, of course, you can just get it in the normal default color. But these are really cool and awesome way to express yourself with your hardware wallet. So let's go ahead and crack this thing open, and we'll get started here. I'm going to take it out of the shot while I get the plastic covering off. This is probably my favorite color of the Nanos. It is absolutely beautiful. So there we go. Get that plastic covering off. Got this beautiful box here. Let's pop this thing open. You just slide it out. And if any of you just picked up a Nano recently, please follow along. We do have a couple more minutes here until we actually start setting up the device. So if you have one sitting over on your desk or something, go pick it up and follow along, and I'll help answer any questions you have while we set this thing up. So here's the box here. Get this thing open. Check that out. So we're going to have a few things here in the box contents. We have your recovery sheet, a packet of recovery sheets here. And look at this. Beautiful Bitcoin Orange Ledger Nano S Plus. This thing is awesome. So very cool color, very cool device. There's a couple other things under here as well. You're going to have your Get Started guide. So if you can't follow along today, that's totally fine. Maybe you're listening in the car or something like that. That's totally cool. This entire guide will get you started with everything Ledger. Perfect. And right under here too is this cool, not cool, but very much required cable. So we got your cable here. This is a USB-C connection. So got your cable here, and a nice little keychain to use if you want to keep your Ledger device on your person. Cool. So let's get into it here. The most important thing out of all of this is absolutely by far your recovery phrase. This thing is awesome. It's beautiful. Look at it. You love to use it. You love to hold it. But that means nothing without your recovery phrase. This is the most important thing in the entire contents of the packaging. This is what you will want to keep safe. You want to keep secure. And we'll get into more of the details of the recovery phrase, but the device is going to give us a recovery phrase to use. And we're going to go ahead and write down that recovery phrase here as a backup. Now, before we get too into the recovery phrases, kind of going off of the thought that this is the most important thing, once we write this down, you do have some other options to store this written recovery phrase, because you don't ever want to store this on a computer or your smartphone, or take a picture of it. You want to keep it in a secure place, offline, only physically written down. So we're going to get to a couple other options after we set up the recovery phrase. I'll show you some other things that you could use instead of just this piece of paper. But this is a great starting place to keep that recovery phrase written down and offline. So let's jump into actually setting up the device now. Move a couple things around here. Oh, and really quick, one thing on these cables. It's really great to make sure that you always keep track of this ledger cable. Don't lose it. This is the best cable to use. You can use other USB-C cables with our ledger devices, but you want to make sure that they support data transfer. A lot of times folks will use some cables that don't support data transfer, maybe some cheap cables they bought off Amazon, and it's not going to work with your device, right? So you want to make sure that if you're using an aftermarket cable, that you're using one that supports data transfer. So cool, let's set this guy aside for a second, and let's get back to this Ledger Nano in Bitcoin Orange. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to connect this device to a power source, preferably your computer. And you'll notice if you just put it in right there, nothing happens, right? It just kind of stays blank. It's not turning on, click any buttons, nothing's happening. This is a common question for folks. With our Nano S Plus, we have it snap in. So you want to make sure to give it a good push because it snaps into that port. And that's when it's going to power on for you, is when you get that, when you fully insert it and you'll feel it snap in. We just wanted a more snug, secure port there. So make sure that you give it a good push and it'll power on for you. So cool. Now we are at the point of setting up this device, and it's going to kind of walk you through a little bit of a tutorial. So you can read through that if you want. It's just going to tell you where to install Ledger Live, which we will get to later. When you're installing Ledger Live, you want to make sure that it is ledger.com/start. There are, unfortunately, lots of scams out there that try to get you to use malicious websites, install malicious versions of Ledger Live, what have you. Typically, all those are going to be doing is in some way or another trying to get you to enter the 24-word recovery phrase into the website, which you do not ever want to do. So when you're installing Ledger Live, make sure it is exactly ledger.com/start. So we're going to navigate. This is going to show you how to navigate through the device, but I'll tell you here as well. It's really simple. There's just two buttons on the device here. So left, right, and you navigate through the device, accordingly. And then when you want to select something, you'll select both buttons at the same time. So you push them both down at the same time. So that's what this is walking you through, is just how to navigate the device. If you ever want to get to your settings on your device, which you will need to do for a couple things with the Nano, all you got to do is hold both buttons down for like 2 or 3 seconds. The settings will pop up and you'll be in the settings. So let's go ahead and keep going here. This is showing you where you can get help for setting up your device if you need to refer back to some other documentation. And we have a couple options here. We have set up as new device, which is what we're going to do today. And we have restore from recovery phrase. We'll get to this a little bit later on in this broadcast, but just keep this in mind. This is an option when you're setting up your device. But for this general onboarding, we're going to just go with set up as new device. This is a brand new device. We're pretending that we have never used a recovery phrase before, and many of you watching may have never had a Ledger recovery phrase before, so this is the exact option that you're going to choose when setting up your device. So, as mentioned, to select, we're going to go ahead and click both buttons at the same time. And now it's going to give us it's going to have us, set up our 4 to 8 digit PIN. So your PIN code is really important. Your PIN code is what you're going to be required to use each time that you want to open your Ledger device, and that is required to sign transactions. So it's really important to have a unique PIN code. Don't do something like 111 or 0000. You want to use, a random but memorable string of 4 to 8 digits. So one moment, I'm going to get a little bit of water. Awesome. So here we go. Let's go ahead and set up a PIN code. And you may be thinking, okay, well, somebody just has to guess 4 digits and then they can unlock my device and transact on all of my accounts. That seems a little bit risky, right? Well, not really. The reason that you want to have a really secure PIN code, you don't want something predictable. You want something that's a little bit random but memorable to you. This could be maybe, maybe like your house number or, something that's really unique to you that not other people would know, but something that you can remember. The reason you want this is because the device is only going to give you 3 chances to enter in the PIN code correctly. And if you enter incorrectly 3 times, it'll completely wipe itself and require you to restore it using the recovery phrase that we're going to get to. So if somebody were to try to, hack into your Ledger device, they're not going to be able to because they're only going to have 3 chances to guess the correct PIN code. So the chances of that happening are infinitesimally small if you have a solid, secure PIN code. Let's go ahead and give ourselves a PIN code here. I'm going to choose. I'm going to do this. We'll just do 3113. This was a house number to one of my old apartments in college, so we're going to go ahead and use that one for today. And it's going to ask you to confirm the PIN code again. And how I'm navigating this is using the buttons here, just left and right. You'll notice that left is going to move the decimal down, or excuse me, the number down, and the right will move the number up. It's kind of like a wheel that you're spinning through. And then to confirm one of the numbers, you click both buttons at the same time. And you'll notice that each starting point is different. So this is a security measure on the Ledger device so that somebody watching you couldn't track the pattern of your PIN code because each time it's going to start at a completely different number. So keep that in mind. It's a great security feature within the Ledger device. So again, I'm just pressing the right button to move up in numbers and the left button to move down, and then clicking both at the same time to confirm that number. Then you'll see this little check mark here. This is saying, hey, is this your, do you want to confirm this entry? Do so. You'll click both buttons at the same time again. So now this is the most important part of the device setup. Write down your recovery phrase. So what we're going to do here is the device is actually going to provide you with your unique recovery phrase. So let's go ahead and move along here. So it's going to say the device will generate your 24 words, and they are your recovery phrase. And again, as mentioned earlier, this is the most important part of the device setup. You really want to make sure that, when we're going to write this recovery phrase down, we're going to write these 24 words down, and you do not ever want to lose this sheet, right? These 24 words are going to be the backup to all of your funds on the blockchain that you secure with this recovery phrase. So this is really, really important. I cannot stress that enough. So again, the device is going to tell you pretty much the same thing, like, hey, this is the backup to all of your accounts, so don't lose it. Oh, and this is a good point too. Write it down on the recovery sheet in the correct order. So you'll see that the recovery sheet here numbers, or denotes each word with a number. So you want to make sure that you're writing this recovery phrase down in the right order. A lot of folks will sometimes originally write it down like, up and down, and then they'll go try to restore their device, but they'll read it left to right, and that's completely wrong, completely different, and they run into a lot of trouble there. So make sure that you know what order that you're writing the recovery phrase down in. In this case, Ledger makes that seamless for you because we just go ahead and number each one of your words. Cool. So let's press both buttons here to continue, and we're going to get into it. So this first word, receive. And a lot of you who are used to recovery phrases or kind of know all of this general setup, you're probably like cringing right now, like, oh my gosh, she's going to write down a recovery phrase right in front of all of us. Rest assured, I will not be using this recovery phrase. You can go back and try it later if you want. There will never be any funds associated to it. So cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through all of these and write them down. So the first word is receive. And is what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're writing down as legibly as possible. A lot of folks will fly through this and do a little bit of chicken scratch, and then 2 years later they need to use the recovery phrase and they can't read what they wrote. So make sure that you're writing it down really legibly, so that if you ever need to use it, you can read it. And then to move through each one of these words, you're just going to click the right button. And our second word here is hurry. Let's go ahead and write that down. Cool. And that's all I'm doing is I'm writing each one of these words down in the order that the sheet is giving me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that a little off camera here so I can go a little quicker. I'll just keep that here for you. Third word is question. Keep going through here. Fourth is market. Fifth is match. And what's really interesting here about the recovery phrase is, the device uses the wording that, Ledger is going to generate your recovery phrase, which, I guess is true. This device itself is giving you the recovery phrase, but it's not like, Ledger doesn't have a storage, a list of recovery phrases, and we're giving you one of them. That's not at all what's going on. Ledger doesn't have any of these recovery phrases at all whatsoever. All this device is doing is it's essentially running a function, right? And this function is outlined in what's called the BIP39 standard. That is BIP 39 standard. Go ahead and look that up sometime. It's really important that you have at least a rudimentary understanding of what the BIP39 standard is. We actually do have a article written up on it on our Ledger Academy. So if you just search BIP39 Ledger Academy, that write-up will pop up for you. And it's really important. It's really important to run through because it'll give you a basic understanding that, this device, we're not giving you one of many recovery phrases that we have stored, right? This device is just running a function outlined in that standard, similar to like a calculator would run a function, right? It's just giving you an output from that function. And that output is a highly random string of 24 words. Random, quote unquote, because everything is within parameters. But with a high level of randomness, you are getting an output from the function outlined in that standard. So be sure to check that out sometime. It's really important to know and to understand. All right, we're just over halfway here. Kind of speed through these last ones. And kind of going, along the lines of that BIP39 standard, what that means is we as Ledger don't have access to your recovery phrase, right? You are the only one who has access to the recovery phrase because that is one of an infinite amount of outputs that function could run and give you. So you are the only one who has ever seen that output. We are the only ones who have ever seen this output that we're writing down right now. Ledger, as a company, we don't have access to that. So what that means is if you're ever in a situation where you lose your recovery phrase, there's nothing that Ledger could do to help you get back that recovery phrase because we don't know it. We don't have access to it. It was an output from a function that you really only seen when you ran the function by setting up the ledger. So keep that in mind. It's really important to keep this recovery phrase safe because there is nobody who could help you get it back. You are the sole owner of your recovery phrase, which is great, right? That's the entire ethos of crypto, is you and only you have full control of your funds. All right, one more here. Perfect, that's the last one. Last one is alpha, love that. Awesome last word there. Cool. And then, so it's just telling you here to go back and verify that you wrote them all in the right order. So when you're setting up your actual recovery phrase, make sure that you do this. Go through and make sure that you have them all written down in order because this essentially is probably going to be the last time that you see the recovery phrase on the device. So make sure that you have everything in the right order. Cool. So after that, we're going to go ahead and press both buttons at the same time to move on to the next window. And now it says confirm your recovery phrase. So what we're going to be doing next, we're going to press both buttons to continue, is we're going to go through a little bit of a quiz. So the device is going to quiz you to make sure that you actually did write it down correctly, which is great because Ledger is doing everything it can to make sure that you have your recovery phrase accurately written down and written down in the right order. So that's the device's way of testing you to make sure that you did everything correctly. All right, let's get through this quiz here. In this quiz, you're pretty much just going to be re-entering your recovery phrase in the exact order, 1 through 24. Let's go ahead and run through this really quick. My first word was receive. My second word was hurry. Go. Question, market. Match. Oh, and what I'm doing here is, sorry, I'm kind of blowing through this a little too quickly. What I'm doing here is you, with each word, it's going to give you a few options for each word to choose from, and you just navigate left and right to work through each word or to choose a word. And then when you find the right word, the right number that matches, for example, my word number 6 is corn. So I need to find corn here. Boom, I find it in the list of options. And then to confirm it, you just click both at the same time, and then it'll move on to the 7th word. So the 7th word here is novel. So I'm just clicking to the right until I see novel. There it is. Click both buttons at the same time. Now we're on to number 8. We're just going to keep doing that. We're going to make sure that we have every single word in order. Number 9 is lobster. Number 10 is porch. 11 is gown. 12 is ancient. 13 is base. 14 is chimney. 15 is glass. Public. Almost done here. Economy. 1 is response. 2 is have. 23 is buffalo. And last but not least, 24 is alpha. Love that. Oh man, I wish I could use this recovery phrase. I think that's such a cool last word. So, all right, so we have alpha. That's our last one. So this is telling you that, boom, good job. You passed your test. What you entered in was the actual recovery phrase that is loaded onto this device. So it's going to tell you, once again, your recovery phrase is set. So keep it in a secure place. It's not referring to the device. I mean, yeah, you want to make sure that your device is safe, but what it's referring to is your recovery phrase. You want to keep this in a safe place. This is the most important thing. Even absent of this device, you could throw this device in the river for all we care, because you could just buy a new device and restore it with this recovery phrase to gain access to all of your funds. So this is what matters. This doesn't matter so much. Cool. So let's go ahead and move on here. Yeah, this is just kind of telling you what I just said. You know, all of your assets will be immediately lost if you lose your recovery phrase. It's not referring to the device. It's referring to the recovery phrase. So never share your recovery phrase with anyone, and we, Ledger, will never ask for it. This is really important. A lot of times when you're online, a lot of times when you reach out for help on like Twitter, right? You tweet something about crypto or something, you're gonna get a bunch of scam bots who are trying to get you to give them your 24-word recovery phrase, saying, oh, hey, yeah, we can help out here. Just send over your 24-word recovery phrase and we'll take a look. Well, as soon as you do that, they have access to all of your funds on the blockchain that are associated to this 24-word recovery phrase. So you never, ever, ever want to do that. Cool. Press both buttons to continue. We'll go ahead and do that. Processing. So what this is doing now is it's taking it took your 24-word recovery phrase and it tucked it away in what's called the secure element. The secure element is our entire infrastructure around keeping your recovery phrase safe and never letting it leave this device. Great, so your device is ready. Go to dashboard. Here we go. So now we're on the dashboard. You'll see install app and you'll see control center. Control center is like your settings. You can double click here to get into your control center. It's going to tell you hold both buttons down to access settings and more. And then back to the dashboard. So what this is telling you is go ahead and hold both buttons down. And then boom, you can get into the settings here. This isn't really necessary right now because we haven't really done much with the device, but just for future reference, if you ever need into the settings, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do here. You can check your firmware version. Right now ours is 1.02, so it's a little bit outdated. I'll show you how to update the firmware in just a moment. And then just some other information that's not really necessary, but you can adjust your brightness here. Low, medium, high, back. Let's go ahead and keep it on medium just for the sake of this. Actually, low looks a little bit better. Let's do low for this stream. And then some regulatory info. And then security. So here you can change your PIN code. If at any point you want to change your PIN code, excuse me, maybe you think somebody knows it, or you're just practicing good security management and you want to regularly change your PIN code, you can do that here. We're not going to really worry about the passphrase because this is just something that's a little bit more advanced. So don't really mess with that unless you'll only do a passphrase if you know that you want to do a passphrase. This isn't something that you should be thinking you should be doing right away. It's not really necessary. Your 24 words is more than secure, but this is an option and there are some reasons for it, but let's not really think about it right now. Pin lock, this would just lock the device again. Screensaver, you can click on this and you can adjust how long you want the device to wait until it locks the screen, requiring you to enter your PIN code to unlock it. There is the option for no screensaver, but we don't really recommend that. I like to keep it on 10 minutes, so if my device is idle for longer than 10 minutes, it'll automatically lock itself. So let's just keep it on that. And then this is a reset device option. This is a way that you could reset the device, which would completely wipe it clean. It would remove the recovery phrase from it, and you would have to restore the device using the recovery phrase. So go ahead and go back and back. And you'll notice how I'm navigating, right? I'm using the left button and the right button to navigate through this lateral screen, and then this lateral navigation, excuse me, and then pressing both buttons to select something. Let's do that again. Hold both buttons to get to the settings. I want to select the settings by clicking both buttons, and then I can navigate through these options left and right. Awesome. Cool. So that is basic device setup, and that is how you navigate the device. So now what we're going to do is we are going to move over to Ledger Live. Keep in mind that this device here and what I'm referring to as Ledger Live, which is our native software application, are two separate things, right? They're not one in the same. You can use this device in many situations without Ledger Live at all. Ledger Live is just our native application that makes it really easy to use your Ledger device securely with to manage all of your assets. So a little bit more water here. It was a salty Thanksgiving dinner, so we're a little bit thirsty today. All right, so to install Ledger Live, which is our software application to manage all of your crypto assets, you'll want to go to ledger.com/start. Ledger.com/start. And there you'll be able to install Ledger Live for whatever device you're running, Mac, Windows, or iOS, or Android. You'll have links to all of those. So for the mobile ones, for iOS or Android, when you click on that install, it's going to route you over to your Apple or Google Play Store to install the mobile application. Sometime soon in the future, we will do an onboarding for our mobile users. I know we have tons of mobile users, so we're planning on putting together an onboarding for mobile users. So again, that's ledger.com/start, and that's also right here in the sheet contents, the sheet that's in the contents of your packaging, ledger.com/start. This is where you install Ledger Live. Cool. So go ahead and get switched over here. Awesome. So this is what it's going to look like once you install it on your computer. This is our native application. So let's get working through this. So keep in mind again, I want to reiterate, the Ledger device and Ledger Live are independent of each other, right? What we're doing here is we're going to connect this Ledger Nano, this hardware, to this software application. We're connecting to it, right? Ledger Live doesn't have any idea without the connection. Ledger Live has no idea what this device is. It will never know what the recovery phrase is because the recovery phrase is stored in the secure element. We're just connecting to this software application, and it's going to read the public information from this device to display what assets you have on the blockchain. So let's go ahead and crank through here. May need to adjust this a little bit so you guys can see everything. Perfect, there we go. Cool. So when you install and you open up the application on your computer, you're going to see this screen and you're going to want to head over to Get Started. There's also, you can download this software before even having your device, and you can use this link here to route to our store so you can buy a device. So right now, let's go ahead and get started. And then we're going to select what model of device that we're using. So we are using the Nano S Plus. Our Nano S is no longer available on ledger.com. We have sunset that device. If you are somebody who owns a Nano S, no worries at all. The device is still completely functional. It is just as secure as our other devices. We are just no longer selling it. It's one of our older models. You may still find it on, if you purchase from a reseller or something online, one of our authorized resellers, you may be getting a Nano S. You may have the option to buy one there. But for ledger.com, shop.ledger.com, our store, we're only going to have the S Plus and the X. So this right here is a Bitcoin Orange Ledger Nano S Plus. So we're going to select that one. And then you're going to have a few options here. If you just open your device and you don't set it up right away, you can select this first option and set up a new Nano S Plus. And what this option is going to do is it's going to walk you through the tutorial that I just walked you through. It's going to kind of give you some information and some help getting your 24 words set up on the device. So you can use this option if you're brand new. Since we already set up the recovery phrase, and I obviously walked everybody through the tutorial of setting up the recovery phrase, you can just go ahead and connect your Nano S Plus and get started there. So this other option here, this restore your recovery phrase option, this one is really good for, not really good for, this one is for if you are ever in a point where maybe this is a new device and you want to use your original 24-word recovery phrase to restore a new device. You can absolutely do that. You can use an existing recovery phrase on a new device and gain access back to all of your same assets. So that's why the recovery phrase is so important, right? The recovery phrase isn't intrinsically tied to this single device. You can restore a multitude of other Ledger devices with that exact same recovery phrase. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go back over to Ledger Live here. So we are going to use the option connect your Nano S Plus. Now, what is really cool here is our genuine check. So this is going to scan this device for any malicious software on the device or firmware, what have you. So what this means is a lot of folks online are sometimes scared of purchasing devices from resellers or from our official Amazon store. And this genuine check right here is what's going to be able to put all of those fears to rest. Because no matter where you purchase your Ledger device, we strongly recommend either from ledger.com, from our official Amazon store. We even have them in a lot of Best Buys now. So if you are a US customer, check out your local Best Buy. They may have some devices in stock. For our French customers, Boulanger, I think is how you pronounce it, is a partner of ours as well, and they sell Ledger devices. So there's tons of others out there. But anyway, my point is it's totally secure to buy devices, not just from ledger.com, because we're going to go through this genuine check, and it's going to make sure that this is a genuine device that has not been tampered with. So it's a little bit, let's go ahead and hide this Nano for a second. Here, we're going to go ahead and go check my Nano. So right now it's going through that genuineness check. It's going to want you to unlock your device. You can see here that my device is locked because it's been sitting idle for more than 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the PIN code. Awesome. And now I'm going to allow Ledger Manager. So what that's doing is it's allowing Ledger Live to read the public information on this device. And we get the notification, all good. Your Ledger Nano S Plus is genuine and ready to use with Ledger Live. Awesome. So I'll go ahead and hide this Nano, and we're going to hit this continue button down at the bottom right. Awesome. These are our terms of use. There looks like there was a couple of updates from the last release of Ledger Live. So you want to make sure and familiarize yourself with all of our terms and conditions. Go ahead and hit continue. Awesome. I guess I can bring this Nano back up for now. Cool. So this is Ledger Live. This is our native software application to manage all of your funds that will be associated to this device. Excuse me, that's not the correct terminology. All of your accounts and funds that are associated to the recovery phrase that's currently on this device. Great. So let's see what this looks like. So you'll notice you only have a limited number of options here in this left-hand side. This left-hand side is your navigation of pretty much the entire platform. You're not going to have the options for the accounts until you add your first account. So let's go ahead and click Add Account. And let's see, what's our first account going to be? Bitcoin's doing better than Ethereum today, so let's do Bitcoin first. Well, at least last I looked. Let's go ahead and hit continue. So I'm adding my Bitcoin account. And what's going to happen is it's checking the device to make sure that you have the Bitcoin app, which we don't. So what it's going to do is it's going to install the Bitcoin app for you. So what is an app, you may be wondering? Let's go ahead and open the, so now look, now we have this Bitcoin app on our device. Let's go ahead and open that up. Bitcoin is ready. We'll go ahead and finish adding this account, and then we'll kind of backpedal and discuss what these apps are and why the heck they're on our device. So for 99% of folks using Bitcoin, you're just going to want to use this native SegWit option. That's why it's a default option, because it's the most popular option. Most exchanges are using native SegWit options. We're getting a little bit into the weeds here, but since we're already on this view, let's just go ahead and run through it for the Bitcoin users. There is this option to show all address types. If you're somebody that uses these other, lesser used address types, that's fine. They're here and available for you. But if you don't know what this is, then it means you don't really need to worry about it. So just go ahead and keep that toggled off and just use this native SegWit address type. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and add this account, and you can rename this account if you want. So, maybe I want to call it My Bitcoin. Cool. So this is my Bitcoin account. Go ahead and add that account. Now you have successfully added your Bitcoin account. Done. Okay, so let's backpedal a little bit here, because we need a bit of an understanding of what an app is. So if you go down to your My Ledger tab here, this is this bottom option in the left-hand column. We're going to be able to open up all of the apps that we can install here on this device. So now you're going to see a list of apps, right? So what the heck is an app? An app is pretty much an instruction manual for the device for whatever network that you're using. So it's important to know that this Ledger device out of the box has no clue what Bitcoin is, has no idea what the Ethereum network is. It could care less, right? All it is doing is just hosting this 24-word recovery phrase for you. So is what we do when we install an app is we're telling the device, like, hey, here's all the instructions that you need. This is what the Ethereum network is. This is what a signature looks like. This is what a hash looks like. So you're telling the device, all of the details of each specific network that you're wanting to use. So if you're somebody who, uses Cardano, you're going to need the Cardano app to be able to access your accounts and sign transactions and sign Cardano transactions. Same with, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, what have you. Each individual network is going to have its own app. So this device here, just like the Nano X, which is our flagship model, both this device and our flagship model hold up to 100 different apps at once. So there's very few folks who would need more than 100 different apps, because that would be a ton of different networks to be managing. So you're going to be able to manage all of your crypto networks seamlessly with one device all at the same time. Cool. So that's a basic rundown of apps. One thing that we also notice here, this is our My Ledger tab. This is where you're going to be managing everything associated to the connected device. So this tab is displaying all the information about this specific device that's connected. If you disconnect this device, that My Ledger tab is not going to know what the heck is going on, because it's only associated to this device here. So you'll notice here that we have this firmware update. You can just go ahead and click Update Firmware, because we need to update the firmware on the device itself. What the firmware is the operating system inside this little device, right? So we want to make sure that system is always up to date. We do push out little updates here and there for the firmware. Some of them security related, some of them feature and improvement related. So always want to make sure that your firmware is up to date. If you're ever using a Nano device and you're noticing just random errors when you're trying to transact something, it's most likely that your firmware is out of date. And one more thing here before we go ahead and update the firmware is you need the latest version of Ledger Live to be able to get the latest version of firmware. So you always want to first make sure that your Ledger Live is on the latest version. To do that, just simply go to ledger.com/start and reinstall Ledger Live. Again, that's this one here, .com/start. And just reinstall Ledger Live. It'll keep all of your current settings. It won't mess anything up within your Ledger Live, but it's going to pretty much act as a reinstallation and give you the most up-to-date version. So you need the latest version of Ledger Live to get the latest version of firmware. Always remember that. Cool. So it's going to say, hey, this is going to give you a little bit of a rundown of what's new in 1.04. And then it's going to ask you for your recovery phrase, because very rarely, there are some rare circumstances, if your firmware is super out of date and you're re-updating it, or it encounters an issue during the firmware update, the device will sometimes reset itself, which is not a security concern at all whatsoever, right? That's totally fine. It's safe. It's a little bit of a nuisance because you have to restore your device, but if you're updating firmware and it resets itself, you'll simply just use your recovery phrase to restore the device and be back to square one. Or not back to square one, but back in action, back to your normal business with your Ledger device. So you always want to make sure you have your recovery phrase when you're doing updates, just in case the device resets itself and you need to restore it with your recovery phrase. So boom, I'll go ahead and select that and hit continue. Now it's going to download the update and then install it on the Ledger Nano. You'll see a little processing window here. It only takes just a few moments, so it should be done pretty quickly here. But again, you want to make sure that you have the latest version of Ledger Live to get the latest version of firmware. And you can check for firmware updates maybe every few months, right? Maybe like 4 times a year, just double check that your firmware is up to date. Ledger Live is going to always have this orange banner at the top there when there is a firmware update. But if you're running old Ledger Live, you may not be getting that banner. So always make sure that Ledger Live is up to date. I would check like twice a month for new versions of Ledger Live, and then maybe 4 times a year for new versions of firmware. Also, if you follow Ledger_support on Twitter, we will always post when new Ledger Live and new firmware versions are available. So you can stay up to date there. All right, so again, on the device here, it's just gonna run you through what just happened. New firmware 1.04 is now on the device, and confirm update by clicking both buttons at the same time. Now it's gonna go ahead and install. Processing, this will be super quick. Boom. All right. And so what's new here for this Nano S Plus is this new way to navigate your pin code. So instead of that, instead of the cycling through the rolling numbers pretty much, now it has this more lateral pin entry. So it's a little bit easier to navigate through it, left and right. So I'm just going to go 3, navigate to it. You'll see like the little underscore that's for the number that's selected, and go through all of that. Again, left and right to navigate, and then double click to enter the right one. And you'll notice, or to enter your selection, you'll notice that every time I select, it's moving the cursor to a different number. And that's this new iteration of this security feature to make sure that somebody can't track the pattern of your recovery or your pin code. So, and then boom, it's going to snap me over to confirm, the little check on the far right. Double click there, and we are good. Great, so we're back in, the device is unlocked, firmware's updated. Now let's head back over to Ledger Live. It's going to want you to reinstall your apps, so we can go ahead and do that. What this is each new iteration of firmware, allow Ledger Manager, or excuse me, I should say, oftentimes, apps will have versions, newer versions of these apps here based on the firmware, right? So older versions of firmware are going to host older versions of apps. When you update your firmware, some of your apps will have new versions specifically for this firmware version. So you'll just want to go ahead and update the apps. Apps installed here, this little tab over here is where you'll be able to install any updates, and you can actually remove apps if you're not using them. If you need extra storage, you can always remove an app. The app has nothing to do at all with your funds on the blockchain. It is simply just an instruction manual for the device that you can remove and re-add as needed. Cool, so let's go back over to this accounts tab. So we have my Bitcoin account. Let's go ahead and add another account. I bet a lot of folks in here are using Ethereum. So go ahead and add our Ethereum account. It's going to check app dependencies, and it's going to see that the device doesn't have the Ethereum app yet. So it's going to install the Ethereum app for you on this device. Again, the device doesn't know what the heck Ethereum is. You have to teach it what Ethereum is by installing the app on the device. Boom, open the Ethereum app. Awesome. And it's doing a quick sync. What synchronizing means is it's actually checking the blockchain. So it's reading the blockchain and it's taking the public information from the recovery phrase, public information meaning just the public address, and it's fetching that from the blockchain to scan the account for any funds. But obviously this is a brand new recovery phrase, so those addresses on the blockchain aren't going to have any funds in them yet. So let's go ahead and rename this. I like my Ethereum. On my Ethereum, my Bitcoin, taking some ownership here. And we'll go ahead and add an account. Awesome. So now we have a Bitcoin account and we have an Ethereum account in Ledger Live. So now the question is, how the heck do I get my Ethereum or my ETH and Bitcoin like onto this device? Like how do I put it in there? Secure it with Ledger, right? Well, keep in mind that funds themselves, you're not like uploading Bitcoin or Ethereum to this device. It doesn't store your cryptocurrency like a thumb drive would store a file. That's not what's going on here. This device is purely securing your recovery phrase and the keys required to access these accounts on the blockchain. So this recovery phrase is a backup to what are called private keys. And private keys are required to sign transactions for these accounts that we just added to Ledger Live. The whole concept of recovery phrase deriving private keys is a conversation for another time, but just keep in mind that for this broadcast here, that the device itself is only holding the recovery phrase and the associated private keys to that recovery phrase. So what we do here to actually secure funds with your Ledger device is you just go over here to one of your accounts. Let's use Ethereum in this example. And this is our brand new Ethereum address. And we're going to go ahead and click receive because we want to deposit Ether into our Ethereum account. So go ahead and click receive. And the account to credit is going to be our Ethereum account. We're going to put money into this account. And it's just giving you a warning to make sure that you're only sending ETH to this address and you're not sending something funky. So go ahead and click continue. And here we go. Here is my Ethereum address for this recovery phrase. So this Ethereum address is deriving from the recovery phrase on this device. So you'll see on the device it says verify address, and it's going to display the exact same public address on the device as we see here in Ledger Live. So it's this OX7E, and then the last three, 3C00, 3C00. So you can match up the public address here to the public address you see in Ledger Live. This is a security feature. This is to prevent you from using any malicious versions of Ledger Live that might be giving you a fake Ethereum address to send funds to. So you'll always catch that by checking your device. Your device is always going to give you the true the true public address for your account. So always double check that the address on your device matches the address in Ledger Live. Great. So, and to close this out, you'll just want to click to the right again and hit approve, and then it'll close out this window. But when we're on this window here, there's this copy button. Boom. So now we can copy that Ethereum address. So now what you do is you would go over to, here, let's go ahead and switch back over to, I think it's this one. Yeah. So what you would do here is you would, now that we have our recovery phrase, or excuse me, our public address copied on our computer, We would then run over to Coinbase, or maybe it's MetaMask or Binance, wherever your Ether is currently living, and you're going to make a withdrawal from that exchange or wallet or whatever service provider you're currently using. You're going to make a withdrawal. And when you make a withdrawal, there's going to be a to field, right? The to field is the recipient of that Ethereum. And what you're going to paste in there is this public address that we just copied. So you're essentially sending yourself your Ether, but you're sending it to your now ledger secured Ethereum address. And that's it. From here on, you're going to add all of your accounts, whether it's Bitcoin, it's Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Cardano, Solana, what have you. Add all of those accounts in Ledger Live, and add all of those accounts in Ledger Live. Let me go ahead and click out of here. And when you do, you will get each address for each of your accounts that you can then send money to from your exchange or wallet that they're currently sitting in. Bitcoin app, I'll just show you. This is going to be the exact same thing. You're now going to get your Bitcoin address. Same thing. Awesome. So that's really the basics there of getting set up with Ledger and adding your first accounts into Ledger Live. Now, there are a couple other things to check out here. Here's our Discover tab over here on the left-hand column. So here are going to be some of our third-party integrations that you can use directly through Ledger Live. We have some staking options. We have some options to buy crypto using exchanges like Binance or other custodial providers like MoonPay. We do have some DEXs built right into Ledger Live, like 1inch that you can use. Paraswap is another great decentralized exchange to use. Again, some more like staking protocols that you can use, and other ways to onboard crypto, like using Wire. You can buy crypto with your debit card using Wire. And when you do using Ledger Live, when you do through Ledger Live, the crypto is going to be like, for example, if you bought Bitcoin with Wire, it's going to be put right into your Ledger Bitcoin account. So it's super seamless and super easy. So, yeah, there's a bunch of apps here that you can explore and that you can use directly within Ledger Live. This Send tab, actually, let's get to this in a second. Let's just get through one more thing here. Over here we have card. So this is our CL card. Yeah, don't worry about this. I've just already clicked on this before, but this is a place you can go and sign up for our CL card. Our CL card is going to be a way that you can use your crypto that you have secured with Ledger on the go. So if you're at a grocery store or a gas station and you want to use crypto for that purchase, you can now, well, soon, most folks will be able to do so with the CL card. It's currently only released to folks in the UK, and I think the rest of the EU is coming soon, or beginning to be rolled out, and then hopefully US customers will have access to this soon too. But this is through a third party partner called Banks. So any questions that you have about this, you can let us know. We may be able to help answer some of them, but most of those questions are going to come from the third party provider Banks. So give that a check that out if that's something you're interested in. Cool. Let's go back over to the Send tab really quick. Just so we can wrap things up, because what we did earlier was receive. This receive tab is going to be the exact same process as when we were on our accounts and we received here. You can also click this button and it's doing the exact same thing. So I want to receive funds to my ETH. I want to receive ETH or Bitcoin to my Ledger secured accounts. I can do that with either navigation. So on the inverse of that is send. So maybe I want to send some of my Bitcoin to somebody. I can, by clicking send here, select my Bitcoin account, and then enter the recipient's address, whether it's my buddy or maybe I'm going to send it to an exchange so I can sell it, what have you. I can do that right here by entering the address. And when you click continue, you're going to be requested to sign the transaction on your device. So you'll see on your device, the transaction hash will pop up. You can review the information and you'll navigate all the way to the end and double click to confirm that transaction. I don't have any funds today to show you exactly what that would look like, but it's going to be really self-explanatory when you are in that situation when you're sending funds, because Ledger Live will walk you through everything. Cool. All right. My computer is being a little slow here because I have so many things running at once. Trying to close out of this. There we go. Awesome. And when you add all of your accounts, you can go up to the portfolio tab, and this is a great tab to manage like your entire portfolio of funds that are secured by Ledger. And the market tab here as well is a great way to quickly see current market prices for cryptocurrency. All of our price information comes from CoinGecko. So if you're looking at like Coinbase, maybe you're looking at the price on Coinbase or something and you're seeing that it's different than in here. That's because we use CoinGecko, which is a price aggregator. So it's bringing in the average of all exchanges. Each exchange is going to have its own independent price for each specific asset. CoinGecko aggregates all of those prices, gives you an average, and that's what you're seeing here in Ledger Live. So yeah, you can you can watch the market, manage all of your funds, and secure all of your assets directly within one product, which is Ledger Live. And that about wraps things up. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it helped anybody out who maybe was a little bit confused about Ledger Live or hadn't quite started because they were a little bit, it was a little bit daunting to them. But we have a couple minutes here, so let's go ahead and scroll through the chat and answer any questions. I bet our mods here have helped out quite a bit. So thank you, Steve and Benjamin, for helping out today, watching the chat. I really appreciate it. It looks like you guys are absolutely cranking away. So let's see if anything wasn't answered yet. No, it looks like you guys are absolutely on top of it. So I'll hang out here for a couple more seconds here. I'll end this right at the 11 o'clock mark. So if you have any last minute questions, throw them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them live. Oh, one more thing too, right before we end, let's go back to Ledger Live. One more really cool thing is our buy tab. So if maybe you haven't even purchased crypto yet and you're using Ledger, Ledger is going to be your first iteration into crypto and you don't even have crypto funds yet, you can go in here and you can buy crypto directly through Ledger Live using our third-party providers. Depending on the region that you're in will depend on what service provider you'll be connected with. All US residents are going to be connected to Wire for purchasing. There are other options like MoonPay, Coinify is one of them as well. These are third-party providers that are who you're actually purchasing the crypto from. You're just doing that seamlessly through Ledger Live, so those funds are deposited to your Ledger secure accounts. So it's a really great option here. I would also highly recommend checking out this Binance one over in the Discover tab. Binance Connect has really great rates to purchase crypto and get them securely deposited right into your Ledger accounts. Cool. How to make sure I got the correct phrase, Nadora? It's a great question. We do have an app. Actually, let's go back to Ledger. I'll show you. So we do have an app. Let's go over to the My Ledger tab. Again, this is where all of the apps are going to be hosted that you can install onto your device. There's loading here. And then we can go ahead and search for an app. We have there are a few other apps that aren't just crypto network related. For example, the recovery check app. You can install this on your device. And what it will do is it's an app that you can use and you'll re-enter your recovery phrase. You'll open the app on the device, you'll re-enter your recovery phrase, and then I'll tell you whether or not the recovery phrase that you just entered is the recovery phrase that's secured on the device. So that's how you can double check that you have the right recovery phrase on your Ledger device. Let's see here. I'm not sure asked before, but so Peju, I think that's how you say your name, asks, not sure. Let's go here. Not sure if it has been asked before, but do you guys have or had any FTX exposure or any other exchanges or companies? No, we have not. Ledger is complete self-custody. We don't have any involvement in what exchanges are doing when they're custodying your private keys to the funds that you purchase from them. We don't do that. We're all self-custody. We did have the option to swap cryptos through FTX. That was a temporary option in Ledger Live, but once everything went down, we pulled that option from Ledger Live, so you wouldn't be able to use them. But no, we have no ties to FTX or any of the stuff going on today. All right. Transfer more than cool. Wow, thanks, Ben and Steven. You guys are absolutely crushing the chat today. So appreciate that. I think that should wrap things up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. We do this every Friday. So be sure to tune back in next Friday if you want a refresher, or tell your friends about it that have recently got Ledger and want to hop in and do a live onboarding with us. We'll do this every Friday. Ty should be back next Friday, so you won't see my face. You'll see Ty back on here. But appreciate all of you tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet at us, write into us at support.ledger.com, and we'd be happy to help answer any questions that you have. Ben is actually one of the moderators in here. Benjamin and I will be live on Reddit at 2 p.m. PST today as well. So if you want to come in and ask some more questions, or just listen to us chat about Web3 and crypto, go ahead and jump over to our sub on Reddit, which is ledger_wallet, I think is what, or ledger or /ledger wallet. So go ahead and check that out. We'll be live in just a few hours, actually. So hope to see some of you all there. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Bye, everybody, and thanks for joining in.